I'm joined by Harry Littman of the Talking Feds YouTube channel, the Talking Feds podcast. Harry, I want to talk about all this nationwide litigation that's going on in the background, most of it being filed on the offense by Trump and MAGA, or they're changing rules in different states, like putting MAGA people on election boards in Georgia, requiring legal action and injunctions to stop drastic changes to the election system. I mean, heck, even one of the things that Donald Trump was trying to do and failed at already was he wanted to tie the funding of our government in a continuing resolution to massive changing nationwide federalizing kind of the voting structures out there, which actually would have the insidious intent, if it would require certain documentation, of actually removing women from the voting rolls because they would have to show that their married name was consistent with their birth certificate name, was actually underlying some of these so-called voter fraud initiatives that the MAGA Republicans were pushing. You've got these pro-democracy lawyers out there. We know about Mark Elias and others who are other silent heroes out there who volunteer their time day in, day out across the country on these teams that push back against these election lies and these election scams by Donald Trump. And then we see insidious things like Elon Musk in Pennsylvania with basically creating lotteries for people to register and saying he's going to give millions of dollars to people, whether or not that's actually happening. I mean, there's federal statutes directly against paying people for their vote and for registering, and he just does that in swing states. So you've got everything that we saw in that MAGA tried to do in 2020 on steroids times. How much is Elon Musk worth? 175, 200 times
70 billion, I think, and counting. But it'll be a billion more when we finish. And look, this is really here's the thing: you take a step back, and it's election law. They seem like small suits, just a lot of crickets chirping. But the whole point here is in the election law context in a swing state, you never know what kind of issue could get a bum ruling from a judge. And we're talking about the campaigns out there fighting for hundreds of votes or thousands of votes in swing states. That's what's at play. And you don't know where the action's going to be until it happens. That's point one about election. And two, it is really, really hard in many of these to unscramble the egg. So let me explain just a little bit more. Like, so far we've heard, you're exactly right. Trump was on to this early, and he seeded a lot of the Secretary of State offices, election boards with his folks. In Georgia, the 5-person board is 3 loyal Trumpists who've put in all kinds of efforts that would delay things or give arguments, just as he tried to do in 2020. Remember, find me 11,780 votes. Well, he tried to say any county official could say there's reasonable cause and keep certification from happening. And there were really like a dozen things like this. All of them were struck down. Georgia courts in every case said, no go. This is against the Georgia statute. You can't have these boards come in and make these substantive changes that will matter. Okay, so in Georgia, very important state, things held. But the Republicans are all over the country, as you say, and some of them are new stratagems. I talked to Mark Elias not long ago, and he said, I didn't have on my bingo card this year the non-citizen trope. He is, and Musk himself is peddling this crap in Michigan, for example, saying that there are more people on the rolls than are eligible to vote, and the whole canard that gives rise to these cases is a fear-mongering that people who aren't supposed to vote are voting, and that just isn't happening. But let me move to Musk quickly, because there are these cases everywhere. You don't know what will come up. Musk is doing this lottery. That's absolutely, if you think about it, you can't, you have to sign his petition and you have to be a registered voter. There are going to be some people who think I'd like the $1 million, just like I'd like to buy a lottery ticket. They'll register so they can be eligible. That is a clear-cut violation of federal law. But it's already, you said, is he doing it? You bet he is. He's given out $4 million checks already. Those violate federal law, but it's not at all clear anything can happen. Only the DOJ, it seems to me, Ben, could actually step in, file a lawsuit and say, stop this now. And will they do it? Will there be time for them to do it? Will it seem like it's getting involved in elections so they won't want to do it? Other people won't have standing. This legal concept that your listeners, know well now, that it's just a generalized grievance. He's just breaking the law for everyone. But if this succeeds in dredging up, say, 3,000-4,000 unregistered voters who then register, and they're really almost overwhelmingly likely to be Trump voters once they've registered. They then go to his rally and sign a thing that says, yay, I like the First and Second Amendment. That's all beside the point in the window dressing. What he's really getting is the new registrants who are likely to vote for Trump, and it may be in short order just too late. It's already, I think, too late to do anything about people who have registered so far, even though they've been induced in a way they're not supposed to. And yes, you can, go after Musk after the fact, maybe, and I'll see what his, try to nick away at his, was it 270 billion? I don't even remember, but he's now the richest man in the world. But in practical terms, this is a really good example of something wrong, illegal, happening in front of our right in front of our faces that probably they're going to get away with.
I think, to your point, though, sunlight is important here. It's important that we continue to talk about what these things are in advance and call it out, because in the absence of it, these plans would disenfranchise tons of people and would kind of manipulate our system.
Let me just make a quick thing, because you're always telling me you're so much younger than I am, and you are. But so this is ancient history, but it decided the 2000 election. There was a ballot, the so-called notorious butterfly ballot by Teresa Lepore, and it's just totally clear to any reasonable person that it resulted in 25,000 votes that were intended for Gore being cast for Pat Buchanan. Those would have been 50 times as much as you needed to swing the election of Gore. It's probably one of the reasons that the exit polls went that way. But you know what? There was just nothing to be done about it. That's what's so challenging for Mark Elias. Shit is happening every day, and it's, besides having to play whack-a-mole all over the country, there are some moles that you can't whack after the fact. So,
well, Harry, your point is so well taken. I still remember the hanging Chad situation. But the issue, and by the way, that's how Brett Kavanaugh became Brett Kavanaugh. He was one of the main people who helped George W. Bush get elected with those arguments to the Supreme Court. Was part of that legal team. And don't get me wrong, he had he had one of the pedigrees to be on that track, but that really catapulted him in a certain direction. But, there we were talking about Florida. We were talking about hundreds of votes, not thousands of votes.
Right.
And most election cases that are litigated in the past, going back to the past, were usually about hundreds. What was always so wild about 2020 is that it actually wasn't a close election. Biden destroyed Donald Trump in the popular vote. It wasn't close. And then in the Electoral College, it was an Electoral College absolute wipeout. So the ominous thought is, what happens if it comes down to one state and not 7? And then you're talking still about thousands of votes, but then what the Republicans are trying to seed, the MAGAs are trying in all of these states, is their hanging Chad argument if we're talking about a 1-state victory versus a 7-state victory. That's really what this is about, huh?
It is, and I'd take it a step further because, they lost roundly in 2020 and all their election arguments. They're losing so far in the courts, but it's not simply about getting a good one. It's about mounting 20 bad ones. And that overall have a cumulative effect of making the electorate think things are unsettled still, or making Trump supporters think there's something rotten afoot and the Dems have tried to steal it. Just remember Georgia again, 11,780 votes. I just need that. And then my friends in Congress can take over. If there's enough uncertainty that this goes to Congress, the very narrow but decisive edge goes to Republicans. So yes, it's finding the actual diamond, if you can, in all the coal, but even using some coal just to sort of, make it seem like things are messy, delayed, possibly dirty. That's a big part of the strategy that they did in 2020, and it's 100% clear they are preparing to do in 2024.
It's why everybody watching, you have to care about law and order, and you have to care about accountability. And one of the biggest disasters in the Supreme Court, beyond even the immunity ruling, is saying that there's no such thing as accountability and that the law doesn't matter. It doesn't apply to certain people. That's what the Supreme Court said. So if it doesn't apply there, the message gets sent to bad faith actors. Well, I'm going to start doing election lotteries. What are you going to do about it? Okay, I'm going to have to pay a fine. And it starts sending a message. If I can send SEAL Team 6 to kill political opponents, then the Federal Election Commission, what are they going to do to me? It sends those messages, and it has a domino effect that laws simply don't apply. And again, I appeal to all of you watching. I don't care what political party that you are. You should just care about the laws and law and order and evidence and facts. It's why when Harry covers on the Talking Feds YouTube channel a Jack Smith, he's not saying, oh, Jack Smith speculates. No, Jack Smith submits 2,000 pages of detailed evidence that has text messages and photographs and the documents and everything that backs up every word. And that's what the system should be. So everybody subscribe to Harry's YouTube channel. It's where I get my legal news. It's the Talking Feds YouTube channel. We need to build, not just for the election, but for generationally, we need to build hubs of truth and accuracy and evidence. And Harry is at the forefront of that. Harry, thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Always a pleasure.
And hit subscribe here. Have a good one, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.